So reports out today that the big border deal that was supposedly coming has already basically dissipated. Democrats are not planning on negotiating on behalf of DACA recipients, basically because they don't trust that Trump would actually provide a permanent fix in any way, right? That he will not follow through on a deal. You know, a lot of times we think of these things that like, well, they'll sign it at the same time. But we have a lot of instances where, for instance, Mitch McConnell has made certain promises to bring up certain legislation and whatnot, and then it just goes away. And it's not a story because nobody's going to read a story that, oh, that didn't happen, period, end of story, or people will read about it, but it's not going to be on cable news when that stuff never happens. It's going to be mentioned as an afterthought. And the Democrats simply do not believe that Trump is a good faith negotiator, which I think is a fairly rational response. And so they won't make this deal. In the meantime, as we know, because the Supreme Court has not taken up any of the DACA cases, we're in a situation where DACA folks are protected for at least a year. It's still, I think, a horrible position to be in, incredibly stressful. There still makes it much harder for DACA recipients to function on a day-to-day basis in our society. But the imminent threat of deportation is not there at the moment. Same too, the TPS case still tied up in court. So I think the idea from the Democratic perspective is we have some leverage here. There's no reason to trust him to do something that we don't think he's going to do. And the fact of the matter is the Republicans got destroyed on this shutdown. They got destroyed. They realized that they caused a tremendous amount of suffering, frankly, in the country, stress amongst hundreds of thousands of workers. There are tens of thousands of workers who are not going to get their payback. I think there's an attempt in the House to pass a bill so that contractors will get back pay. But when we talk about contractors in this instance, what we're talking about are janitors, maybe cafeteria services at places like the museums in the city or government buildings in Washington, D.C. Those folks who really probably need it as much, if not more than any government people affected by this, at this point will not be getting back pay. That may change. So it turns out, not just a vacation. And I don't know how their bridge loans worked out that they were able to secure from their friendly banker down the street, who they've done all this business with, so willing to give them money. So at this point, Trump is going to have to decide whether he will declare a national emergency or not. My guess is they're just going to sort of like pretend like none of this happened, because in 3 weeks, there will be something else that we'll be talking about that is so unbelievably ridiculous. Meanwhile, people are starting to dig in. Now that we are in a situation where we just went through the longest government shutdown we've ever experienced, where we have some places in national parks that will never recover for generations. They're talking about Joshua Tree National Park, where you have people who are going to feel the impact of having no money for that month come in for probably months. It'll probably take a year for people to sort of recover from that situation and not have it be something that they're dealing with. Paying off credit card bills. Worrying about, dealing with reshaping the things that they had jiggered around because of anxieties. Government agencies probably won't recover for another 18 months. terms of contracts that had to be put on hold, deadlines that were missed, et cetera, et cetera. So now that we've gone through all this, the question becomes, as Republicans are now too afraid to engage in it again, rightfully so, whether Donald Trump will declare a national emergency to build the wall. People are starting to look into his claims of why there needed to be a wall. And I think Rachel Maddow talked about this first a couple of nights ago. But we have a CNN clip that basically looks into this movie, Sicario 2, I guess. Sicario 2. And sees that a lot of what Donald Trump has been saying about the border seems to have come directly from this movie.
It's a great film.
Let's watch this clip.
Right? There are prayer rugs in the film. The president tweeted about prayer rugs found on the border from a story in the conservative Washington Examiner, which quotes an anonymous New Mexico rancher who had no evidence of the prayer rugs. The film also features terrorists who paid drug cartels to bring them into the country. Something else on the president's mind.
People are pouring into our country, including terrorists. We have terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people.
That claim appears to be the president accidentally or willfully misunderstanding a Customs and Border Patrol statistic that 10 suspected terrorists on average are blocked every day from entering the U.S., mostly by flying, at locations worldwide. And then there's duct tape. The president has that on his mind, too.
They nab women, they grab them, they put tape over their mouth, they tie their hands. They have tape over their mouths, electrical tape, usually blue tape, as they call it.
10 times this month alone, counted the Washington Post.
Tying up women, putting tape in their mouth. They tie up women, taping them up. Women are tied up, they're bound. They have women in the back seat of the cars with duct tape all over the place.
The president claimed women are duct tape shoved into vehicles driven across the border and sold. Those who work every day trying to protect vulnerable immigrants from sexual exploitation say duct tape isn't a thing.
We have a database of 1,435 indictments, and we went through all the indictments, and we found 26 cases that involved kidnapping. We did a search on duct tape, and we found one case of 1,435 cases that mentioned duct tape.
And that case was an American, not a migrant. In looking at all federal trafficking cases, most victims are U.S. citizens. Only about a third of trafficking cases are foreign nationals, and the vast majority of them enter the U.S. with legal visas. No duct tape.
What Donald Trump is missing with this sort of fictional account, Hollywood version of human trafficking, is the dire cases that do exist in the United States, including cases of forced labor and forced prostitution.
One incoming on your right. There I see nothing. Contact right. I didn't see anything. Oh, down.
One other highly dramatic possible Hollywood fascination the president has: those coming across the border have better cars and equipment than U.S. law enforcement.
They have the best vehicles you can buy. They have stronger, bigger, and faster vehicles than our police have, and then ICE has, and then Border Patrol has.
It doesn't exactly
Saw it
fit
in the
the second
documentary.
Sicario film. CNN and many news agencies have asked the White House.
All right, I mean, this is what kind of vehicles are coming in? Do they think that they're coming in?
Well, did you watch the documentary? Maybe you should do your research before you snark.
Now,
Hopefully he will watch that movie if they can keep him up through it, because I don't want to freak people out with a spoiler, but the enemy might be within in
That's
that
right.
movie. It might be actually, I don't know.
this is like a
deep
fake
state.
on a fake on a fake. And the White House clearly understood that there was a problem here. And but I suspect what it is that, like, Stephen Miller could be just sitting there and describing this to the president as a way of getting on board. This could be like the wall, right? Which was just a way for him to remember to bring up immigration. Wall will always laugh loudly about immigration. There was something like that.
Oh, no,
Hey,
that
he could
sounds
pronounce
scary. When did
it.
they
He
take
could wrap his
2020?
mind around it. It's perfect.
When did they take 2020 off the air? They should
So
be covering that.
apparently Vox saw an email provided to them by a member with the Border Patrol, which was sent as a request for information by the Assistant Border Patrol Chief on behalf of the Office of Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin McLean, who is referred to internally as C1, and it asked agents to reply within less than 2 hours. They wanted the response within 2 hours. And it was the text of the email. The subject line was "Quick turnaround. RFI taped up women smuggled into the U.S. All. We require your assistance on a quick turnaround for C1." That was the commissioner.
Not done by ICE agents.
So the commissioner
themselves.
needs this. Commissioner needs this quick. Please forward any information that you have in any format regarding claims that, quote, traffickers tie up and silence women with tape before illegally driving them through the desert from Mexico to the United States in the backs of cars in windowless vans, which is exactly the language that Trump was using.
Bonus points if it mentions blue tape.
And reference the news article below for further info. That news article was a Washington Post article asking where are, here it is. Trump's stories of taped up women smuggled into U.S. are divorced from reality, experts say. So they were looking for anything that would in any way refute the idea that Trump's stories are divorced from reality. And it appears that he did not, that request was not fulfilled, or I'm sure we would have heard about it. There would have already been a special announcement from the White House.
It's blue duct tape, and maybe Nancy wants her MS-13 lovers to do that to her, but other Americans don't.
There's a story here. The same guy who wrote the speech where he was quoting Bane from Batman at the Republican convention. You remember that? This is the same stuff. Something's going on there. Somebody's figured out, like, we can just tell the old man a story from the from a movie, and he'll just buy it. He's not seen any movies. I can't watch the violent stuff.
I don't watch movies. I have too much work to do. It's executive time.
Transferring power from one administration to another, or from one party to another. But we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
And we give it back to you, the people.
For too long, a small group in our nation's capital
Are corrupt.
has reaped the rewards of government,
The rich.
while
All right, there we go.
Oh my God. We talked with Leslie Lee III from Struggle Session on the Antifada this week, and he noted that part of the reason why Resistance TV is so bad is nothing could be funnier than Trump is in real life. And I think that's very true.
It's tough to parody this stuff.